Today we're going to be making pasties. First of all, we're going to make some pastry. This is absolutely foolproof. This is the easiest pastry recipe I've ever used. My nan used to use it, my mum used to use it, and now I use it. So here we go. First of all, I've got 500 grams of self-raising flour. If you've only got plain flour, you can use 500 grams of plain flour and 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Now I'll put the recipe at the end of the video so that you've got these measurements. In here I've got a teaspoon and a bit of salt that goes in, and then here what you need to remember is the ratio for any for pastry, short crust pastry, is half fat to flour. So in this bowl here I've got a mixture of butter and lard. If I'm making say meat pies, for example, I would use all lard. If I was making a sweet pastry, I would probably use all butter. Put the lid on, and then we're going to pulse this at full power. Okay, everything's mixed in together roughly. So now I'm going to actually blend this until we get fine breadcrumbs. As you can see, it's made its way up to the sides and all the lumps are gone. All the lumps are gone. Now we just knock that back in. As you can see, look, it's forming already. So that's really good. This is so quick to do, it's unbelievable. Now you can use 200 grams of flour, 100 grams of fat. You can use a kilo of flour, 500 grams of fat. So it's very simple. Right, next I've got 200 mils of water in here, but I'm not going to use all of it. What I'm going to do is just sprinkle it around once. You're better to add a little bit, not enough, than you are too much, because you'll just end up with a big paste. Right, on my blender, I'm now going to turn the power down a bit, because what I want it to do is to pull this all together into one lump. So, first of all, pulse. You can see that going. Now I'm going to put it on full power. And there we have it, all in one lump on this side. So, I'm going to put this into a bowl. Just tip it in. She says, there you go. Put that into a bowl. Obviously take your blade out, and then we have our pastry. Beautiful. Okay, now what we're going to do is chill this down for a little while. So I'm going to cover it with a clean tea towel, and I'm going to now put this into the fridge for a little while so that it chills down while I make the filling. Okay, we're ready for prepping for the filling. So first of all, I'm going to put in 500 grams of mince into a bowl. I've got most of that, so that's good. This is quite easy. Put that to one side. Okay, next we're going to add a stock cube. I use a vegetable stock cube in this. Gives it a nice bit of flavour, or brings out the flavour, and I don't need to add any more salt into this. Just black pepper, a little bit of black pepper to go in to help with the seasoning. I use dried garlic in this recipe. Other recipes I do use fresh garlic, but it's a bit of a pain. So sprinkling of garlic, that's it. Again, I'll put the recipe for this with proper measurements at the end of the video. Okay, so this is eschalot. It's dried eschalot. That's optional. just helps bring out or give it an extra bit of flavour, if you see. And this definitely is optional, but I like this. It's just chilli flakes, and I put a tiny bit of chilli flake into that. Okay, the next thing we're going to add is 1 tin of well-drained, it's called Macédoine here in France, mixed vegetables, that's what it's called. Okay, no salt, as I said before, so we put that to one side because now we need to cut up onion. So you can see I have my trusty board here, which I've got pepper all over. And my husband made this for me from an old breadboard, and what he did was, a few years ago now, was put some food grade skewers and hammered them through for me so that I can deal with vegetables, and it's really, really cool. You can buy these. Don't cut all the way through your onion. You can buy these online, but they are very expensive, which is not a problem for some people, but I don't have an awful lot of money, so this is the way we go with it. Right, as you can see, I've not cut all the way through this onion, and you'll see why in a minute. It actually helps with the peeling. I can pull that there. If I can get hold of the other one, I can pull that one across there, and look, we've got a way to skin it. I tend to dig holes in my onions as I go. Don't worry about these holes because we're going to chop them anyway. So that's not so much of a problem. This does make it easier for you to peel your onions. Could have done with turning that round a bit more, but it's fine. It's going. So we just take the skin off, put the rubbish to one side, obviously. 1 peeled onion. Okay, I'm going to crack on and do the next one because I want, in this recipe, 2 small onions like these. These are just regular white, yellow, whatever you call them, onions. And if not, 1 big Spanish onion, obviously, or a large onion. That's really good. Oh, come off. There you go. Make sure you get it on there good and proper. Because what we don't want to do is chop our fingers with this. Okay, again, pull it off. Whatever way it goes. It will go better one way than the other. Here we go. Take that bit off. And we're ready to skin again. It looks like a better bit there to me. So, again, just peel the skin off your onion. You can move it round, it's not an issue. Because, as I said, we're going to chop these. Look at that. How's that for peeling an onion with one hand? It took me years to learn how to do vegetables. I'm going to be making stew in another video at some point. And I can honestly tell you that was traumatic the first time I did that. Okay, to cut our onion on the board, just chop it in half. Then it will lay flat. That's easy. That's quite normal. That's a nice normal way of doing it. Oops, she says. Okay, so you've got your onions. Now I'm just going to roughly break those up. Just very, very roughly. Then I'm going to pull them all into the middle, like this. Things don't always go right when I'm cooking, as you can see. It's a bit hit and miss, but I get there in the end. It may not always be pretty, but it does the job. This is really easy to do. Just keep chopping, keep chopping. I've got some dropped off the end, but that's not a problem. I can pick those up in a moment and put them back. I use this board on a non-slip mat because the board tends to sort of move around, and that's the last thing I want it to be doing while I've got a really sharp knife in my hands. Can you see now? That's coming together really, really nicely. Everything you do with one hand is going to take a little bit longer than it would if you're doing it with two hands. And if you don't like this bit, or don't need this bit, you can always fast forward. It's not a problem. Okay, we've got some really quite nice fine onion there. So that's now going to go into our mix, and then we can get rid of our board. That's not a problem. So just gather it up, chuck it in. Gather it up, chuck it in. Just get in what you can. I usually do quite well getting most of it, so there you go. So that's our onion, and that's the last thing we're going to put in this mix. I use pepper everywhere, look at this. I use this mat because it's pretty much non-slip. Okay, now normally I would use a spoon to do this, but I'm going to get in there with my hands and I'm going to mix that. Now don't forget, we've put pepper, echalot, we've put a stock cube, all together in there. And what we want it to do is just sort of mix the flavours together. Don't squeeze when you're doing this because you'll squash that already cooked vegetables. I've done that before and it becomes a mess. Try and keep this bit quite light, because otherwise when you come and put it in your pasties later on, if it's too dense it will cook like a sausage instead of being nice and light. Well, there you go. That looks like quite a good mix to me. So what we're going to do, we're going to put this to one side now. We've got our pastry already chilling in the fridge, and we're going to leave this now for about an hour so that all those flavours can sort of meld together. And while we're doing that, I'll do my clearing up. Okay, so I've let the meat and the pastry rest now for a good hour. I had a nice cup of tea while I was waiting. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is we need to break an egg. Now, obviously 2 hands, not a problem. 1 hand is a problem. So, fingers like this. Pick your egg up and crack it on the side, and then you pull with your thumb. Did you see that, how I do that? That's the position my fingers are in to do this cracked egg. Okay, just give it a little whip, just to break it up, because I'm going to use this to put the pasties together. So, I'm guessing this is where it's all going to go pear-shaped. We put the egg to one side, and obviously I need a pastry brush. So let's just get that in. A quick word about tools. For the meat, as you can see, that's all ready to go. I tend to use these. These are just regular ice cream scoops. I bought a set of 3 of these on Amazon, various sizes, and each one of them does a different job for me. So I'm going to be using that to get my meat today. Pastry nicely rested. We're going to place that there. I also have a bowl of flour ready, pastry cutter, a little Maurice scraper, just in case I need to move that down. I've got a knife just in case my pastry cutter doesn't go all the way through, and of course my rolling pin. So let's get started. Here we go. Fingers crossed this goes well. Okay, flour our board generously. Now again, I'm using this non-stick. I use it all the time because it's great for the bowls. They don't tend to move. So that helps me an awful lot. Okay, we're going to grab a piece of this pastry. As you can see, it's all lovely and ready. Now I'm just going to make it into a sort of ball and push it down. Turn it over. Now I've got flour on both sides of this. It's not going to stick to my board. Okay, let's move a few bits out of the way before I knock them all over, because I'm rather accident prone and I tend to make an awful lot of mess in my kitchen. Right, there we go. I've just rolled that one way here. Now I'm going to turn it over again and gather up some flour, because the last thing I need this doing is sticking to my rolling pin. Okay, so you know what we're aiming for, a sort of oblong effect. I can take that off because that's not going to help me. Like I said, this is where it all goes pear-shaped, but here we go. Right, so you roll your pastry into this sort of shape, okay? Then we're going to get some of our mix. I mean, you could use beef for this, or if you're vegetarian, you can use the vegetables, use the vegetable stock, but you could use corn mince for this recipe, and all butter, no lard, for the other piece. Right, I'm just going to pull this together, but as I said before, what I don't want is for this to be too finely packed. Okay, so we're going to go round the edge with our egg. This is just a gluing effect. And then I'm going to pull this over the top, right to the edge. Okay, there's a lot of pastry on there, but flour, but don't worry too much at this stage. You can always brush these off later. Right, you just push down and seal it with your finger, and then using the pastry cutter, just cut round into a sort of moon shape. There we go. I'll put that to one side. Now, I turn this over on its side and I push down a little bit, and then I'm going to try and flute these, make a little pattern on top so they look quite pretty. And there you go, there's one. Now, the other thing is, we'll put that to one side for a minute. You can make tiny ones of these. So if you wanted if you were doing a buffet, you can do the same thing, squish it down. Look at that, just tiny bit of pastry there. I'm seriously hoping this goes alright, because sometimes I do things and they go a bit wrong. But, as I said before, I'm not a professional. This is just me at home, having fun baking, and trying to give you some tips as to how to go about doing it with one arm, or, well, it doesn't matter if you've got two arms really. Right, so we're going to take a bit off that because that's a bit much, I think. Same thing again, but these are brilliant for buffets. I've done these before here in France for aperitifs, and people love them in a buffet. Right, this is tiny. What you could do is use a cookie cutter, I suppose, a great big, your biggest or big sized one. You can also get, I think they're called dumpling shapers. I'm sure I've seen that as an American thing. Oh look, little tiny one there. That will do nicely for buffet. You can do them smaller than that. I've done these ones so far. You don't want to watch me make the rest of these, I don't think. Well, here I am back, I finished. I've had a bit of a clear up, because if you could have seen the mess I make, it's unbelievable. In fact, if you could see on the floor down here, I've got probably half a pound of flour. But anyway, all done. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got 11 out of that mix, which isn't bad at all, is it really? So what I'm going to do is freeze these. I'll put them just like that into the freezer in on the baking tray, on the paper, and then once they're solid, I'll transfer those into freezer bags. So that's that dealt with. Okay, next we have, these are the ones I'm going to cook, and you can see there's that tiny little one that looks a bit sad really. I should have used a cookie cutter, that might have been a better idea. This is the egg that we've got left over from sealing all of these. What I'm going to do is give them a nice egg wash. Gives them a nice bit of colour, seals the pastry, gets rid of all the flour from the bottom, and it'll make them look really nice. So just give them a good brush. I don't like waste, so that egg's good enough. All it's done is been on pastry anyway, the brush. These are perfect now. These are ready to go in the oven. I'm going to cook them in my Ninja 10-in-1 on bake, for those of you that have got one of these. 35 minutes on 180 degrees centigrade. I'll put all of the other oven temperatures. I think it's about gas mark 6. But I'll put all of this on the information sheet at the end of the video. So we're going to pop these into the oven for 35 minutes, and then we'll see how they do. Well, I'm very pleased with these pasties, I've got to tell you. They've come out of the oven and they are absolutely lovely. They smell divine. Nothing left but to show you. Oh, look at that pastry. Now this is really nice, really flaky. Look, stuffed full of meat in there. Well, as stuffed full as I can get it, put it that way. But I've got to tell you, half fat to flour is the way to go. Half fat to flour. If you do that, you can't go wrong, I assure you. That's it. Here we go. That's my idea of pasties. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. I'll be making all sorts of different things. I have a muffin recipe, and next time I'm going to be making a cheesecake. Thank you for watching.